ரொம்ப கஷ்டப்பட்டு நான் ஸ்டாண்டே ஒரு மாதிரி கலராக நடக்குது. ஏன்
மிக்சிங்லாம் வச்சுருப்பாங்க எல்லாம் அங்கே.
As long as work is not disturbed. Yeah, it's just weekday 6:30.
Series. Today is a very special day, 12 December 2012, and we have a very special speaker. I was just telling, we have been trying to bring him here for you guys for a long time, and just like the person today has birthday, Mr. Superstar, he has also come today. It's a great opportunity. I invite our esteemed speaker, esteemed member, Jagannathan Ramaswamy of Crystal Advertising, to give a small intro about the speaker.
Thanks, Karthik. Well, I'll just read bits and pieces of this. But to do full justice, I think I'll need about 20 minutes to speak about it, which will be running into his time, so I won't do that. M.G. Parameswaran is the Executive Director and CEO of Draft FCB Ulka, which is a member of the India's third largest marketing communication organization, Draft FCB Ulka. Now for the more important Ambi, let me tell you, this has been the largest gathering they witnessed in the Ad Club Tea Meeting Gyan series for quite some time. With a subject like that and a speaker like this, I'm not too surprised. Well, I addressed him as Ambi, that's what we all know him as. He's a chemical engineer from IIT Madras and an honor roll management graduate from IIM Calcutta. In the 3 decades that he's been in the industry, he has handled assignments in marketing, sales and advertising with companies like Rediffusion, Boots, Yellow Pages, before he sort of settled down in Draft FCB Ulka, which is about 20 years back. He's had a key role in the transformation of Ulka Advertising into Draft FCB Ulka Group, with interests in media, consulting, digital, advertising, healthcare, and so on. He's handled numerous brands, including Digene, Brufen, Santoor Soap, Sundrop Cooking Oil, TCS, ICICI Bank, Wipro, Tata Indica, and so on. He has contributed a lot of articles to premier business publications. He's conducted seminars, branding workshops for Indian and MNC organizations and industry bodies like CII, FICCI, AIMA, etc. He's spoken at international forums including the Kellogg India Summit at Northwestern University and Cornell University. He's been guest faculty at several business schools in Mumbai, at ISB, IITs, and of course IIM Calcutta. He has presented papers at international conferences of Association for Consumer Research. Ambi is an author. He has 6 books to his credit, including FCB Ulka Brand Building Advertising, Concepts and Cases, Understanding Consumers, Building Powerful Brands Using Consumer Research, Building Brand Value, 5 Steps to Building Powerful Brands, which won the 2007 NTPC DMA Book Prize. All his books are used in marketing and advertising education across business schools in India. Ambi is involved in several industry organizations like AAASFI, CII, IAA, and he has served as the president of Advertising Club Bombay, perhaps the biggest club of its kind in the world. I don't know whether it's as active as Ad Club Madras, but certainly it's of governors and of IMC in 2007, and he received the Distinguished Alumnus Award from IIT Madras in 2009. And most importantly, his biodata starts as Dr. N.G. Parameswaran, which I'll tell you now. He has successfully completed and got his PhD from Bombay University, and his thesis work was in the area of religiosity and consumer behavior. So here is Dr. N.G. Parameswaran, Ambi.
It is lower, it is too loud. Okay.
Degrees.
Yeah, thank you, Jagannath, for that very warm introduction and that nice quip about Rajnikant. I actually have a card with his autograph on Rajnikant. That's where our commonality is. I don't know. Okay, I'm actually delighted that there's such a large audience because the topic I have is a fairly serious topic. It's not a frivolous topic. So I'm actually delighted that so many of you, many seniors here, as well as many old friends here who come to listen to what little I have to say. I'm also very happy that there are a lot of young people here whom I think will have to lead the industry forward in the future. I served in the Advertising Club Bombay as president, and we used to have this concept of a tea meeting where we used to invite people to come and talk and have it. But unfortunately, I tend to agree with you on that. Ad Club Bombay has kind of abandoned the concept of a tea meeting some years ago. So, in fact, from IAA we're thinking of reviving it. Visiting leaders to listen to what they have to say. So, my presentation should not take more than an hour. It is a sensational or so-called serious topic, which is client-agency partnership, alive or dead. Because we keep, we keep getting asked, is it becoming too one-sided? Are we being treated? Our agency is being treated very, very badly today by clients. What are we doing about it? What is the industry doing about it? What is the associate doing about it? So, before I launch on to my views, I thought we should start with a Dilbert cartoon. Okay? And some of you may have seen it on Facebook or on various social media. So here is Dilbert telling his mom, as usual, I worked until midnight last night, mom. So mom says, well, at least you made some extra money. So Dilbert says, no, I don't get paid for overtime. Well, at least it was important work. Well, not really. My boss made me change my PowerPoint slides, but the changes made them worse. Well, at least you're prepared for your meeting. Oh, well, it was cancelled. But that's okay, because the project isn't funded anyway. So you worked for free to worsen a presentation for a meeting that won't happen for a project that doesn't exist? Yes? Oh, you must be in advertising. There's another old joke about, I'll go on with jokes, so no, let me get on to the topic about, can't make fun of advertising, we have to talk serious stuff. So, see, we keep saying that, we agencies are no longer treated well, but the truth is, advertising is not on the CEO's agenda anymore. That's the real truth globally. And this is what, John Philip Jones, very famous professor at Syracuse, he retired last year. Before that, he served for many years with JWT in London. In fact, last year at the Goa Fest, we had invited him. And he came and delivered a talk. he's 85, and this observation of his is extremely apt, which is, and this is from an article he wrote in the year 2000, Harvard Business Review, saying the greatest judgmental engagement with a company's advertising takes place at the lowest levels of a company's management pyramid. The job is done by the least experienced managers. They can select things that they want to pass to higher levels. This is the extent to which they are empowered to say yes, which means they can't say yes. All they can say is, yes, you can show it to my boss. Right? On the other hand, they can reject things on their own initiative. They can say no without reference to their superiors. Now this is a plague. This is the problem which faces us, and sometimes, we need to confront this. So very often when, I train my people, so I say, look, if a product manager says, no, I don't like it, yes, I will rework, I will do something fresh, but let me present it to your boss as well. This simple trick often works, because, a lot of times the product manager has no idea what his boss wants, and he's trying to second guess the boss, saying, my boss normally doesn't like humorous ads, okay, so do something else, but the boss for once may like the humorous ad. Okay, so problem is this, that the product manager level, any product managers here? Okay, come on. I've served as a product manager for 6 years of my career, so I'm speaking with some amount of experience. Product managers can have the authority to say no, they don't have the authority to say yes. That's unfortunately the truth. So, but let's look at it this way. Are clients having a very good time today? Compared to what it was 10, 20 years ago? No. Unfortunately, clients are having a very tough time, right? One, if you are an American company or any part of any multinational, you have a quarterly reporting and you have to deliver your numbers every quarter. So there is huge amount of pressure to look at your numbers, review them every quarter, right? And according to a report, the forced resignation have shown a threefold increase over 1995, right? And globally, underperforming CEOs are removed well before their term. Interestingly, I was on the flight from Bombay and I was sitting with Mr. Ramdurai of TCS, and we got discussing how Vikram Pandit, who was supposed to have done very well, he saved Citibank, right? He walks into the board meeting, the board tells him, we are letting you go. Right? He didn't know about it. So this is the reality, that the average life of a CEO or CMO could be as low as 24 months. So there is a huge amount of pressure on them to perform, and therefore continue driving this pressure down the organization. Right? And what is triggering this madness? And we know there is a huge amount of pressure which the CMOs put on advertising agencies. One, I think the big problem is the procurement. Right? Today, I don't know how many of you here deal with procurement departments. Right? The advertising selection is done by the marketing team, and then the marketing team tells the agency, now you sit with our procurement team and negotiate. Now, procurement team treats you like they treat the vendor of office clips and office files, right? So, what is the lowest rate? What rate? What is how much you pay your people, etc., etc., etc. So, why is this become so important? Because today a lot of companies are spending more money on advertising than what is their net profit. Right? And there are enough companies which spend 11% of their turnover on advertising, and their net profit is probably 6%. So the amount of money spent on advertising is become huge, and therefore procurement has come in to control the cost. The other thing is the whole thing about timesheets. I don't know how many of you here fill timesheets. Timesheet is a big thing, right? And so if you fill timesheet, it's assumed that you've worked. They could be playing games, but filling timesheets. But there is a timesheet madness, and clients feel new technologies are coming and the agencies are too slow to understand and embrace them. And they feel that agencies are letting them down in terms of understanding technology. And the last, I think there's a big problem with big clients, and may not be that big a problem in Chennai, but there is a huge problem of multiple agencies fighting over the territory. I was talking to a client of mine who said, I'm going to rationalize my digital agency. So I said, look, each brand is aligned to a particular agency. So how are you rationalizing digital agency? He said, oh, on this particular brand, your brand is okay, you're doing everything, but on that other brand which you guys don't handle, I have 6 agencies doing digital work. I said, hello? He said, yes, there is one search agency, there is one display agency, right? There is one agency which is doing viral stuff. There are 6 agencies which my guys have appointed. So I said, look, it's weird. He said, yeah, it is weird. So there are just too many agencies, and there is huge amount of turf and territory. People are fighting with each other all the time. Okay? So clients are under pressure. Clients are under pressure from their CEOs, from their board. Okay, they are under pressure from their audit committees on how are you spending your money. So, but clients, I think somewhere also sensible, and this survey is very telling that only 15% of the clients feel they can evaluate an agency. See, 85% of them say that, look, we actually don't know how to judge my agency, what my agency is doing, right? And they also feel open that we need to figure out how to evaluate agency. And they're saying, look, yes, measuring agency performance is very important. 93% say yes, but only 15% say they can evaluate agency performance. Right? And often the problem is assessment is one way, which is the client is evaluating the agency. The other evaluation not happening, and there is no external benchmarking. I mean, most of us who work in large companies, we do organizational health surveys. Understand that you may get particular scores for your company, but if you don't know what other employees of other companies are scoring, you may actually kind of beat yourself to death. Like, we started doing these surveys 10 years ago, suddenly discovered, on emoluments we're getting, 6 out of 10, as against other stuff we're getting 7 out of 8 out of 10. So we said, look, why are we getting 6 out of 10 on emoluments? And we found that every company, as far as salary is concerned, every employee believes he's underpaid. Right? So when someone gives you 6 out of 10, well, that's not too bad. Similarly, clients, when they're rating agencies, they also need to figure out how are other clients rating other agencies. Otherwise, you're just doing a one-sided game here. And some of the smarter clients actually have a two-way evaluation process, where the client evaluates the agency evaluates the client. Okay, and they actually sit and discuss the numbers. And these numbers go to the CEO, and they often go to the global headquarters. And in the global headquarters, if they find that a particular office, let's say the India office, is getting very bad ratings from its agency, which is probably part of a network, the India office is called and says, what are you doing wrong? Why is your agency not giving you a 7 out of 10, which is the average we're getting across the world? So, unless such systems are put in place, you will always find that evaluation is one-sided, it is very biased, okay, and there is constant pressure on